Hello and welcome to the Comms Collective, the podcast that puts communications leaders in the mission-led world right where they belong, centre stage. I'm your host, Vishnee. I've spent more than 20 years working in communications, from campaigns and crisis comms to leading big brand moments in the charity and public sector. And there's one thing I know is that comms professionals are often left behind the scenes, but their work shapes everything. That's why I created this podcast, to bring together their voices, stories, and hard-won lessons to the front. Every episode, I'll be joined by a communications leader, and they will share what really makes comms work. The highs, the lows, the wish I'd knowns, and the strategies that keeps us going in a world where budgets are squeezed and expectations are high. We'll talk about strategy, we'll talk about storytelling, internal communications that works, and how we can look after ourselves and our teams when the pressure is on. So whether you're leading a comms team or just starting out in the sector, or simply curious about what goes on behind the campaigns you see in the headlines, you're in the right place. Today, I'm thrilled to kick things off with Claire Quigley, Deputy CEO and Fundraising and Communications Director for Money Ready. We'll be talking about Claire's career, what makes her great at her job, and what's next on her journey. So let's dive in. Hi, Claire. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Brilliant. I'm just going to read your bio a little bit. It's amazing. So not only are you Deputy CEO and Fundraising and Communications Director, you've also got 20 years of experience leading teams at great charities, NSPCC, the King's Trust, Tommy's. And I love what you've been trying to do. So we've got here that you joined Money Ready in 2021 and you've really driven the organisation's expansion across the UK, increasing its fundraising to over £4 million a year and led a major rebrand. So I'm excited we're going to talk about those things in a moment. Very welcome to you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your career and how did you find your way into comms?
Yeah, so I studied communications at university, and it was a very broad course when communications, advertising, and marketing was really coming into its own. So that was my first introduction to comms. It wasn't a match made in heaven because my assumptions about communications and my experiences at university were very different. It is a very broad subject, and the people I met on my course were motivated by different things. We had a lot of people who were really interested in PR, which is far from my values and what motivated me. From there, I moved into media. My first job outside of uni was the Daily Mirror, and that was so much fun. So that was a very specific world, I suppose. It was Piers Morgan at the time was the national editor. It was a very fast-paced, fun environment. I was in the advertising and sponsorship team. So yeah, I got introduction to media in its broadest sense, but I specialized in advertising. So I experienced brilliant training in design and media. So that was great. From there, I went to British Telecom and moved into various advertising roles. And it was actually when I had my first daughter and I was ping-ponging across Ireland. I had a national role and I was away from home a lot. So probably 3 nights a week I would have been away from home, and I had a young child. And I remember someone worked in the charity sector and said, you know, there is a job like advertising and sales, but it's to do good. You know, I think that you'd be better suited to that world. So I actually didn't really know anything about the third sector. That sort of planted the seed. So I'd done some exploring and I moved from advertising into the NSPCC in a regional role in Northern Ireland. And then I moved to London. The rest is history. This is my first time at Money Ready directing comms and fundraising. All of the success and the challenges, particularly the highs, are absolutely the team we have at Money Ready. They make my job very easy and a lot of fun.
It's great to have a team behind you that, are sometimes having to manage upwards and making sure that you know what's happening, because you've got a really broad remit when you're covering fundraising and comms. So, yeah, making sure
Yeah.
that they know what's happening, even though you might not be across everything all the time.
Yeah, and I think, Money Ready has been on a journey. So we are a financial education charity delivering financial education right across the UK. And whilst I've been in post, we've seen significant growth. So we are now fully in all 4 nations. Not only does the comms have to reach a national audience, but we're very proud of our place-based, location-based activity. We know that the needs of young people are so different across the UK. It's that constant juggle and supporting the team, making sure that they have the skills, tools, information that they need to love what they do and succeed at their objectives. So, yeah, but I love it. I'm very lucky.
Do you have teams in the different nations that you're maybe not
Yeah,
seeing all the time? How do
yeah.
you keep in touch?
So our model is hybrid, but we do have people who are home based. Across fundraising and communications, there's 12 people in total. Person who leads the comms function is Sarah Ferries. She's based in Scotland, and she has team members in Manchester, in the West Country, and in London. We just have a very flexible, mature, trusting approach. We live and die by our calendars and we catch up regularly. I would describe us as largely a remote team. We have informal catch ups as well as regular team meetings. One of the things about working for an organisation like Money Ready, so I think technically we're a medium-sized charity. This year we aim to hit that £5 million milestone. But having worked at big engines like the NSPCC and the King's Trust, I still consider us a very small, slick team, being super adaptable and really prioritizing our relationships and communication with each other is so important. I speak to the senior manager of the comms part of my department, I'd say probably at least once a day, but often, quite often.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and I think that this new world of hybrid working and remote working has helped us see how other people work and fit in with them, instead of everyone has to be here at a certain time of day. That flexible style is just so helpful, isn't it, for the third sector, for the charity sector? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what's the one campaign that you're especially proud of, and why? It could be any organization that you worked at.
Yeah, so this is a really tough question because as comms professionals, things can be considered successful when actually the impact mightn't have been that good, but it was just a hard thing to do. One example I wanted to share from Money Ready was a campaign we ran in 2022 in partnership with one of our funders, Barclay Foundation, during Care Leavers Week. One of the groups of young people that we care deeply about at Money Ready is care experienced young people. The statistics relating to their financial capability are shocking. 1 in 3 care experienced young people in the UK will become homeless within 2 years of leaving care. Our programme at Money Ready has proven to help reduce youth homelessness significantly. So on completion of one of our programmes, our evidence shows that that statistic is reduced to below 2%. Why? Because we are giving care experienced young people the rules of the game. We are simply telling them what they need to know before they move into independent living. So it's not exactly rocket science, but it's something that I'm really proud of. With Barclays, we worked on a campaign during Care Leavers Week to really raise awareness of the cliff edge that care experienced young people face. We got a couple of lovely pieces of national press. We got some sector press. We had great engagement online. And off the back of it, we had some clear asks to government relating to the duty of care to care experienced young people. So we wanted the Department of Education to provide clearer guidance on the financial education provision that they should provide for care experience young people. So that's something that I'm really proud of. We had a new comms team in post at the time. This campaign was absolutely led by the team. So Sarah, our senior comms manager, and we invested in an animation video, which was new for us at the time. It was a lot of money. You know, for a charity our size, we tend to really lean on our corporate partners to help us. But this is one that actually Barclay Foundation really trusted us to bring the vision to life. We created a brilliant animation that told the story of a care leaver's experience, capturing all of the anxiety and stress. It was a classic darkness into light type animation, but it's something that I'm so proud of, and it's a really good example of trusting the team's creativity and the vision, working alongside partnership, and the Barclay Foundation have been brilliant, as many of our partners are, with leveraging their media connections and helping us get extra coverage through their networks. So yeah, I thought that was a really good campaign. It's something that I think is really important. The statistics around care experienced and youth homelessness in the UK at the moment is going the wrong way. You know, it's a real national crisis. And then we've built on that from 2022. It sort of gave us belief that actually, yeah, we are well qualified to shine a spotlight on the importance and the connection between financial capability and the impact it has on a very specific group, which is care experienced people.
Yeah, and I think it sounds fantastic. And, you know, one thing that I realize is young people have no clue unless they've been told how to manage money, how to do these things. And as you say, if you're in the care system, you won't be taught that. You turn 18, it's like, okay, there you go, bye. So it is important that they understand what their responsibilities are. I mean, even just thinking about, you know, people leave home, whatever age, you sort of have an idea of what you need to do. But if you're in a system, you probably don't.
It's a real passion project for me, and it's probably the one thing through my careers and my different roles across the third sector that is this sort of cornerstone. Financial education is a key part of social mobility. In the UK, we generally learn about money through the mistakes we make or by watching the mistakes of others. Everyone interacts with money. It's so important. At Money Ready, we've been campaigning for years to get financial literacy on the curriculum properly across all 4 nations. It's really important in the third sector that you have a really strong connection to the cause. Makes it a bit easier, especially in the harder times when you think, why am I here? And you remember that it's that mission. You want to change. You want to drive change.
Yeah, you want to make a difference, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's been the toughest challenge that you faced in communication, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, so gosh, you know, it's the thing about comms is that we are a service provider for the charity. And so getting that balance right, or striking the balance between being proactive and reactive, is a constant battle. But I think the greatest challenge for me, now that I am at the stage in my career where I can be really honest and just say that everything always comes back to your team and the people. When I think of the challenges I faced in communications, it usually is people related, which is something that I think is hard sometimes for leaders to admit, but we are but human. For me, one of the things I try to do is I am a big fan of getting the balance right between high performance and accountability and that care piece. I swear by a leadership book called Leadership and Self-Deception. It is amazing. It really helped me on my leadership journey. So 9 times out of 10, when I have a issue or a problem within the comms piece, I tend to really lean on my team to see how can we fix this together, or if someone's having a specific problem, how can I help them? A major challenging project that we worked on this year was the rebrand. So Money rebranded earlier this year from My Bank, MYBNK. So that probably was the biggest challenge as far as a project goes that I've ever had to lead in my professional career. I could write a book about the learnings across that journey. My bank as a brand was a challenge because before we even got out of the gates, we had to explain who we were, why we were using the word bank, but we weren't a bank. Going into schools, we were often told by young people that we had misspelled bank. It was such a distraction. The majority of our funders are within the finance space. They would often comment, well, you can't be called a bank if you're not a bank, and there's rules and all the rest of them. We know this. So it's just a major distraction. And all of the research showed us that once our audiences knew what My Bank was and what it meant, they liked the name because they understood what it represented, the service they were going to receive, and the sort of customer journey. But to an unknown audience, it meant nothing. So we went on a really long process to select a new name, and with that, a new brand. We were really lucky to secure some pro bono support from a Soho agency through our CEO's connections. They offered us incredible support, and as an organization, we went on an incredible journey with lots of twists and turns. But that was probably the hardest, the project that made me really comfortable with things not going to plan. And that's a key theme I'll take forward in my journey.
And there's so many stakeholders, isn't there, when you're doing a rebrand? You've got not only your agency that you're working with, your board, your SLT, your audience, trying to make sure everyone's happy with what you're doing. A huge challenge. I did a rebrand myself a few years ago. We did it in the middle of COVID, actually, which was even worse. We had to stop halfway and then start again later. But that whole idea of trying to please everybody or not please everybody and actually say, it's about the audience. They're the ones who need to get this more than you do if it's a board or somebody else. So, that's a huge challenge.
It's so subjective. What I think works really well or looks cool, you may disagree. My standard sort of motto is progress over perfection. I have long ditched the need for perfection. And I think that that's something that I try and instill in all of my teams, because actually that's where people really start to focus on the wrong things. The stakeholder management was a big part of it, and everyone's enthusiasm and motivation for the task was brilliant. It meant we could have difficult conversations with each other. I would not ever underestimate the importance of really investing in those relationships at the start of that project. So one of the things that happened was the agency, after lots of research, before the project could even start, they looked at our mission, vision, values and said, we can't really progress the work because we don't think those basics are where they need to be. So that led Money Ready down the path of having to take a step back, do some strategic realignment, get that baseline aligned. It was really important. So I'm delighted and so proud of everyone who worked so hard on that. And now we have a much cleaner vision, mission, values, which is great. But it did take a lot of the money, pro bono, time and expertise away from the core project. If you fast forward to the actual project, which started with the new name, the agency made some suggestions about new names based on different testing, different research. And I don't know, I had never been in the scenario with an agency where they are presenting their ideas to you. And I cannot tell you how amazing this agency is. The actual visuals, the language, their pitch preparation and their pitching was incredible. So I understand why they win these global brands. It was amazing. They had some ideas. They had a long list, they created a short list, and we took the short list to the board. Our board is made up of really innovative, fintech, modern thought leaders, captains of industry. They loved what they saw the same way as the leadership team at Money Ready loved what they saw. And they actually voted on a name which was a bit quirky. If you think of a Monzo or one of those brands that kind of Revolut, for example, like doesn't really mean anything until you're a customer and then you know what it means, you recognize it. The board voted on it and the leadership team at Money Ready couldn't settle our conscience because our objective was to create a brand that was a Ronseal name. So it done exactly what it said on the tin. And the name that we had just voted on at the board, and I, as the comms director, took it to the board. So I take responsibility because I got caught up on all of the excitement from the agency. When all was said and done, it did not meet the objective. So I had to own up and say, we can't proceed with this name because it wouldn't have solved the problem that my bank had created. So we might as well stay my bank if we're not going to change to a better name. Money Ready was a name that we owned the trademark for. It was on the long list. Before we settled on Money Ready, we went out and done some independent testing and we got feedback. And thank goodness we did, because the name we almost changed to was one of the less engaging names, with Money Ready coming out on top. So we went through this whole thing and it was under our nose the whole time, that name, Money Ready. So the rebrand, choosing the name, I thought that was the big thing we needed to do, but actually that was just the start. All of the hard work came in the activation of the brand, and we give ourselves around 8 weeks to do that. And again, that was all the team. They were incredible.
Yeah. The agencies are fantastic, and we've all had experiences of agencies where they take you on this wonderful journey and you're like, oh my God, it's incredible, visionary. But then we have to remember, and you're the guardian of the brief and the like, is this really fulfilling our objectives that we've asked to fulfill, you know? And being honest about that. When you talk about a name, it's so easy to just reimagine a name and go for fun and quirky. But how many charities have we seen recently who've gone back to their old names because their old names either had legacy and history behind them, or they just made more sense? You know, where quirky, innovative names don't always suit a brand and a charity.
Yeah, well, and we often in the third sector, and this is one of the things that our board at Money Ready really understood, we don't have the budgets that private sector businesses like a Monzo, like a Revolut have launch budgets, and we just don't have that luxury. We are often expected to launch a thing on a shoestring budget, but have the same sort of impact as a household name, which just is such an unrealistic expectation. For me, as the director of communications, I was acutely aware that this was a problem, but it needed to stand the test of time. So I'm really proud of myself, because it was one of the hardest things that I had to do, was admit that I was wrong. Here we are, and the name works.
You should be proud. It's a great name. And like you said, it does exactly what it says on the tin. And like you said, you had it there waiting for you. You got a product called Money Ready. So it works perfectly. Sometimes you need to go through that process, right? To realize, actually, we've already got a good name. Why are we not using it or sticking to our old brand name? Which is incredible. Well done to you and the team to deliver all the activation within 8 weeks. That must have been a bit bonkers as well.
Yeah, well, you would think that was bad. So that was in June time that our brand went live publicly. And our first launch was actually a Radio 4 campaign in July. And then we announced our plans to merge with another financial education charity in August, and that merger was completed in September. So it's been a busy time for the fundraising and comms department at Money Ready, but I am so proud of them. And I'm so lucky that they're just great. It was a really busy period, but all these things are hard. And sometimes the task fills the time. If I had said, okay, we've 8 months, would it look any different? I'm not sure it would, to be honest.
Yeah. And you mentioned the kind of high pressures. How do you look after yourself and your team in those high pressure, high crisis moments?
Yeah, so I am a complete millennial. So my team will tell you that I love a GIF and inspirational, motivational quotes. I've already mentioned the book Leadership and Self-Deception. My senior management team are also fans of that book, and that really promotes the outward mindset. That is a culture of how can I help? What can I do? Let me try and walk in that person's shoes. People like Brené Brown, I often share podcasts. A quote from Brené Brown is, we can have courage or we can have comfort, but we can't have both. So what I say to my management team is always do the right thing. A lot of the time, it will be the harder thing. We have two choices. We can do the hard thing or we can take the easy route. My experience of managing people and projects is that if you take the easy route, you're going to pay the price. Do the hard things. We've created a high performance, high caring team where we have very honest conversations and we really encourage a mature, direct approach where we can say hard things that are hard for us, but also hard for me to hear as a leader. That's okay because we've created this safe space. So things like making sure that my team take their time back when they are traveling for work. One of the things about being hybrid and based across the UK is travel time, the expectations from our funders or delivery partners to be out and about exists. I need my team to be flexible, but equally they need me to be flexible, taking time back, making sure people are planning their annual leave. When you are on annual leave, be on annual leave. When I am on annual leave, you will not see me checking in because I need to totally disconnect. I know everyone's different, but for some people, actually, it's good for them. They like to keep a foot in and just see what's happening. But as a team, we talk and manage each other's expectations. Some of my team will say, you might see me online, but it helps me to relax knowing that everything's A-okay. Whereas I'm sort of like, absolutely no way, unless there's an absolute crisis, I will see you in a week's time. So ensuring that people, when we work from home, there's days that I don't move for hours. I'm very mindful to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. So we would often just say, go for a walk, please take a lunch break. If I see people logging on early, just be really mindful of that person and saying, I saw you on early, please log off, so things like that I think is really important. And as a director, there is a responsibility that people look up, they see the behaviors, they see how I'm managing my own well-being. And so I think there is a responsibility for me to look after myself, because when I'm at my best, I can then be at my best for them. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And as you say, people are watching you as the leader. If you don't take time off or do those early morning or late evening emails, it does encourage a culture. So yeah, you've got to show how you want other people to behave. And what advice would you give to someone who is stepping into their first leadership position?
What would I say? Be really mindful of your own interpersonal communications. Take the time to truly build authentic relationships with your team, and always take the hard road over the easy road. When there is a decision to be made, if you can see that you could do A or B, but B is going to be a lot more difficult, but get to the root of whatever it is you need to solve, do that. Also find mentors. Find a mentor, get a coach, and realize that everyone is just trying their best. And most people are completely winging it. You can have all the experience, all of the qualifications, but life is life. The world at the minute is tough. The third sector, we're being squeezed. We're being asked to do more on less. And so to be human and admit when you don't know the answer or you've made a mistake, I think is a really cool way to lead.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And I think you're right. Being able to own up to mistakes or even just saying, I don't know, I need help, I need someone to tell me sometimes. And often your team will have a solution that you've not thought about because you built such a fantastic team that, they could be the ones who have the
Yeah.
solution, not you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that thing about, hire people that are better than
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
is the key to success. Across both my fundraising and communications team, everyone has got things and skills that they are far better than I am and I ever will be. In fact, I don't want to touch it. I've tried it. I can't do it. It is really important to build your team with the people. If you find your people, you will not work a day in your life because you will love what you do. So I think that is so important. But to find your team and build that team culture is really hard because you will have to make decisions and some people just may not be right for the vision of the team. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, completely agree with that. You talked about how comms is getting harder. How do you see the role of comms changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I am a big fan of AI, and across Money Ready, we have some great examples of where we're embracing AI to really help drive some efficiencies. And I understand from a creative IP perspective the risks and some of the challenges with AI. But I think the future of comms is going to really go back to basics. Brands are going to have to be more creative and do less creative things rather than trying to be brilliant in every channel or every type of communication. I think that you'll see more one-off guerrilla style campaigns to shock and delight. I think that, there's no getting away from the future is digital, but there still is such an opportunity with traditional communication channels. For the third sector, for us, it's going to be to get the balance around cost efficiencies. How can we do some of that shock and delight stuff on a budget? We had an example where we just sent a thank you card to one of our funders for something not majorly significant. They gave us advice, we sent them a card, and they were so delighted. It is such a rare thing to get a thank you card in the post. It would have been very easy for someone on my team to send a thank you email, but we said no, send a card. And it wasn't a branded card, it was a card someone had picked up at the National Gallery. It was just a very simple moment, thank you. And actually, what that has done for the supporter care, for the relationship is, it was the cost of a stamp, really. So I'd say we have to embrace technology, figure out what works for your organization, what works within your budget, but also really focus on which channels are most important. And I would invest in those. I think that planning is going to be more important than anything ever before, but also be open to not having the answer. Go with the flow, embrace the technology. Don't try and fight it. This is happening. So are you on board or are you not?
People are worried about things and jobs, but if we don't embrace it and understand it, we get left behind. And that's the danger than trying to understand it right now. But no, it sounds fantastic that you guys are using it and maybe be able to give tips to other people. Brilliant. So I want to move on to kind of like your personal reflections a little bit. And what do you do to switch off and recharge? You've already mentioned when you take a week, you take a week. What are you doing with that week? What are you doing when you're not thinking about comms?
Yeah, so I am, as you can probably hear from my accent, I'm from the north of Ireland. And having lived in London and brought up children in London for 10 years, we moved back to Ireland 2 years ago. It's as if I've been reborn. I love nothing more than getting out into the great outdoors. I live very near the coast, but equally, I've got the Mourne Mountains on my doorstep. So I love walking. I like to run. I'm a very bad runner. So if people can think of Phoebe Buffet in Friends, that is I. Loved running in London because you could see so much. You could nosy in windows and the shops and bustle of Tottenham and Hackney. I used to love that run home from the city. It's a bit different here and there's a lot of hills. So I probably don't run as much as I used to, but I just love that. Just run until the weight is lifted or that thing that's on your mind is. I'm a big foodie. I love to go to the theatre. The thing that I miss most about London is getting to the West End. So I do make frequent trips there and really switching off and getting that work-life balance. Sometimes I think there's no such thing as a work-life balance because if work isn't good, you can't switch off. For me, it's really important that I have as planned a day as possible, that I hold time. So if I say I'm going to finish at 4 o'clock, I finish at 4 o'clock, that I'm present when I'm at home. So I don't often use my phone for anything related to work. So I don't check Teams messages. I very rarely check emails on my phone. And that is something that I actually had to really teach myself to do probably around COVID time. I was working around the clock because there was nothing else to do over those months and years. I think just switching off, whatever it is at the minute, I'm watching Traitors as the highlight of our week. And I cannot believe how terrible the celebrities are. But I would also be terrible, but it's a great watch.
Brilliant. That's a perfect way to end on Traitors. But Claire, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to have you here with me and talk about your work. I hope the rest of the merger and rebrand and getting those team members in goes very well for you.
Thanks, Vishnee. It's been really great. Thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you. I have really enjoyed meeting you and hopefully we'll get to meet in person.
Yeah,
in London.
absolutely. So that's it for this episode of the Comms Collective. Thank you so much to Claire for sharing her insights and experience. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to follow the podcast on your favourite app so you never miss an episode. It would mean the world to me if you could also rate and review the show. It helps more comms professionals like you discover these stories. And of course, join the conversation online. Share this episode on social media and tag us on the Comms Collective. Thank you for listening. I'm Vishnee Sontu, and I look forward to bringing you more honest, inspiring conversations next time.